And we are live. I'd
All
like to
right.
welcome everyone to another episode of Heart to Heart with Bree. Tonight's guest is Minister Angela Hope.
Hello,
And
everyone.
tonight we'll be having a conversation about the role of an officiant, new ideas to make your day special, and we'll be talking about a premarital checklist. Minister Angela Hope, would you please introduce yourself to the viewers?
Absolutely, absolutely. Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Good evening on this beautiful Sunday evening, a time of relaxation, reflection, and a time just to enjoy family, right? So, my name is Angela. I am a wife, I am a mother, a grandmother, a international best-selling author. I'm a wedding officiant, also a life coach. But most of all, I'm a woman of God, and I am so thankful for what the Lord is doing. And I'm glad to be here with you today, Miss Bree. I am really excited about this. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're so welcome. I had Angela and her husband a few months ago, and I tell you that show was well received and it was such a blessing. And in fact, I asked her earlier that would they please come back? I would really love to have them back. It was such a great show. But
Thank you so
tonight,
much.
this topic, I'm so excited about it. You know, I saw your flyer the other day and I reached out, and the next thing I know, hey, here we are.
Here
So
we are.
first question, please explain the role of an officiant.
Sure. So, one of the things that I want to say, I have to say this before, and I know I want to, because your hours go by so fast. I've watched
Well,
your
we're
podcast.
not rushing. We're not rushing. Take your time.
I want to give a shout out to my pastor, Apostle Juanita Corey Jackson, who licensed and ordained me maybe 2 years ago. And she talked to me about considering being a wedding officiant. And it was something about that I, looked into. And I just thank God for people that He places in your life to see the gifts in you. And so I want to give a shout out to her, and I want to thank her for being obedient to God to
Yes,
bring that to my attention, because she saw a gift in me that I had not considered. And so it's very important we are surrounded by the right people, because there's
yes,
sometimes there's things in us that people can't see that we can't see ourselves, right? So I
that's
want to
so
give a
true.
shout out for that. I also want to give a shout out for my coach, Katrina Reese Holmes. There is a quote that Joan T. Randall, our publisher, she often says, and I know you know her as well.
Yes.
I think the quote is by Teo T. Ching, and it says, "When the student is ready, the teacher will appear." And this coach
Wow.
just came out of nowhere in my life. But also it says, "And when the student is truly ready, the teacher will disappear."
Wow, that is
Isn't
deep.
that
That
beautiful?
is beautiful and it's very deep.
Oh my
I like that.
goodness. And
Thank you for
so,
sharing that.
yes, yes. So when I made the decision to be obedient to walk into this wedding officiant role, the teacher appeared. And I just wanted to say that to the audience. So whenever you're ready, whatever it is that you need will come forth in your life. I just had to say that.
Thank you. You just don't I can't even begin to tell you how that just blessed
Ooh,
me.
wow.
That blessed me in such a big way. And I'd like to take the time to welcome Andrew Green. Andrew, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Very, very good. So your question about what the is the role of a wedding officiant.
Yes.
So the role of a wedding officiant is to conduct a ceremony and to recite the vows between a couple. I'm going to say a man and a wife,
Okay.
according to what I know in the Word of God.
Okay.
But we know a lot has changed, and however
Yes.
that works for other people. But most importantly, um, it's important that you sign the couple's license. And so that's one of the major roles of a wedding officiant, Bree, because you can actually officiate a person's wedding and not be licensed or ordained.
Okay.
but you cannot sign a license, their
Okay.
marriage license. So they are not legal unless
That's
a
what I was about
licensed
to ask you.
ordained
Okay. Okay.
minister or whomever signs the license. So that's basically the main role. Now,
Okay.
oftentimes, Bree, we were talking prior to this. Oftentimes, people like they're getting married, and it's like the dress and the venue, and who's going to be in the wedding, and start positioning where mama's going to be, or daddy's not coming, or this.
Right.
But one of the last things that they do, I got a rush call from someone the other day panicking, and she has a wedding this September 9th, and she could not find a wedding officiant. Is the last thing that most people consider is the officiant. And it's like,
Right.
well, duh, that's the person that's going to sign your license.
Yes.
And so then when the officiant quotes the price, then it's like, oh, they've spent thousands or hundreds of dollars on a dress, and they put this down payment on a venue and the cake, and all of those things are wonderful. I always say a wedding is an event, and
Yes.
a marriage is a lifetime decree, commitment, covenant. Two
Yes.
different things, Brie. We talked about that,
Yes.
right? So that's really the main. You can have your sister officiate your wedding, Bree. You can have your
Okay.
brother, your mother, or your father. But at the end of the ceremony, it has to be a licensed, ordained minister. In most states, some people have certifications. Check out your
Okay.
state. Every state is different.
Okay.
To sign that document, that decree, that license for your marriage to be considered legal. So that's the main role. You can
Okay.
veer off into helping them plan. You can veer off into other things. I think you have some other questions. And so I should be able to
Okay.
talk about those as well. But the main thing is you need someone to sign that license so that your
Okay.
marriage is legal.
Okay. Well, my next question is, do you offer premarital counseling to the couples before the wedding date?
Yes, I do. And I call the counseling coaching because when you have a couple in front of you, you're more so coaching them. Back in the day, and people still do that, who are certified counselors and psychology and different things
Yes.
like that, or pastors. You used to come in the office and I'm going to counsel you of what you need to do. I heard my pastor say that the counseling that she got 10, 15, 20 years ago was something like, don't go to bed mad, and don't withhold yourself from your husband. That
Yeah,
was
that was
counseling.
basically it.
That was counseling. Really? And so I call it coaching. So, yes, there is premarital coaching because you can sit in front of someone or a couple and determine, looking at them, how they look at each other, their body language, and you can pretty much determine how much involved you need to get into coaching them. Premarital coaching. If you say, this couple, let's really dig deeper. What's really going on?
Okay.
And so, yes, the answer is yes, but I call it coaching, premarital
Okay.
coaching.
Now, have you ever coached a couple before the marriage and thought to yourself, this is just not a good match here?
Thus far, I haven't, but I've been very candid with a couple when I do what I call a discovery session, which means
Okay.
they contact me. They're looking for an officiant. Their date is such and such. Then that's when we talk about having a discovery session. And that's where I get a chance to say, hey, I'm Angela. I'm a wedding officiant. How did you guys meet? What's your name? Tell me a little bit about you. And that's when I kind of, look at are what their story is. And so
Okay.
thus far I have not,
Okay.
I've been very comfortable and I've made it very clear. My point was, I've made it very clear that if I don't feel comfortable with going any further with you, because while you are interviewing me to see if I'm a good fit as an officiant, I'm also interviewing you to see
That's
if
good.
I feel that you guys need a little more work. And I
Okay.
can make that decision to say, I think you guys may need a little more work, and be honest. Because a lot of people's like, grab the money, sure, let's to get the date. But I feel like the Lord has brought this to me to be and will hold me accountable.
That's good to hear. That
Yes.
really is. That really is. So would you recommend coaching before marriage for everyone?
Oh, I definitely, absolutely. And my coaching after the discovery session, and we decide that it's a go for both parties, and then I send in the agreement, and then they sign the agreement that I would officiate their wedding and all the language that's involved there. Most of my couples get a two sessions of coaching.
Okay.
Now, that coaching sometimes consists of the wedding piece. What's the dynamics of your wedding? Um, but I give them the option if they want to talk more. If they say, "No, what, we got a planner, we've got all that set. We don't need the officiant to delve into that at all. We
Okay.
want to talk about we want to get married. We love each other, but we got some hiccups here. We want to see if you can help us work through." And so then I then switch or redirect how we do our coaching sessions, and they're usually an hour long.
Okay. Okay.
And I'm pretty fair with
Okay.
however long you need.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
hmm
Now, what options does your do you offer with your service?
Sure. So I love your questions, and thank you again for this
No
platform.
problem.
So as I stated, we start out with the discovery session, and then the my basic package is two coaching sessions. I attend the wedding rehearsal, and then the day of. And then I offer a post wedding to say, "Hey, how are you guys doing since you've been married? Do you want to continue on with me? I really enjoyed your wedding. It was great. I thought you guys were beautiful. Can you give me a Google business review?"
Yeah.
Kind of that. Is there anything you guys want to talk about that you didn't share with me now that you're married? Oh, yeah, I'm pregnant, by the way. Things like that.
Yeah.
you know um, so that's my basic package, Bree. And then
Okay.
if there's and a lot of that depends on a person's what financially what they're
Right.
able
Right.
to, and then I'm always here to help scale to whatever they need if they need the help.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I
So
had
now,
a
do you offer referrals, like if they need a cake or if they need what? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I have started a very robust roster of services. My intentions right now is to stay in the officiant lane and not. I talked to one officiant. He was like, "Oh yeah, sometimes I sing at the wedding and I officiate." Okay. This is a la carte. I'll also do
Right.
this. So, I mean, the sky is the limit of what you
Yeah.
can do. But you need to sign that license, right, for the
Right.
couple.
Right.
But yes, to answer your question, anywhere from credit repair, life insurance, consultants. My list goes on. Wedding planners. Because when you're having that conversation during that coaching time, it's like, "But do you know any planners?" Or if they're talking, it's like, "I think you need a planner. Can I
Yeah.
just, suggest a few referrals that you can call?" So yes, 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 and yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay. Now, let's talk about elopement and how has that changed? I noticed
Yeah,
that you mentioned something about elopement on your
yeah.
flyer, which I found very interesting. So I'd
Yes.
like you to talk
So,
about that.
yeah, yeah, I love it because it was kind of interesting when I put that out there, a couple of comments or no comments at all. And so that's the beautiful thing about having a coach and being in this business because sometimes you learn and you know more about
Yes,
what's going on in this field of officiant than people's thought process, right? And so I thought, let me tag this in here so people would get an understanding. And what I found out is that it's like, oh, okay. So as we know, when we think about elopement in our day or in my day, you always, the person was like, oh, they just went up and got an elopement. They went to the
yes,
justice of the peace. They didn't tell mama. They didn't tell grandma. The family's mad. Nobody invited us. We could have did this, or we could have decorated or fried some chicken, or I had a cute dress, or I've been. So that's when a couple decides we're just going off without friends and family, and we're just going to get married. We don't want to hear anything about it, whether it's right or wrong. We love each other, and this is what we're going to do. That's what we think about.
right.
And we've said it ourselves, Tony, they just went and eloped. They just went somewhere and got married. And we tend to shun that or look up down on that. That was what's the word I want to say? That was kind of you didn't have witnesses or you didn't do it in
Right.
front of the family, right? And sometimes those marriages lasted the longest, or they last the longest. And
Yes.
sometimes you hear couples say, I just did a wedding anniversary, a 20th year wedding anniversary, a beautiful 20th year wedding anniversary. And they did the whole kit and caboodle because they just went and got married and they've been together 20 years, two beautiful children, and
Wow.
they did this extravagant wedding anniversary of 20 years. So what we find is sometimes when people just keep other people out of it, but
Yes.
for a taboo, that's the word, taboo. We
Yes.
always looked at it as a taboo. But in modern times, to get to your question, an elopement now is where we as officiants can meet you in the living room of your home, in a backyard, in a park, with just you and your spouse, and you all get married. And if you want a small group of mom and dad or grandma or someone who stand alongside to just witness it, or they just want to be there, then we do just that. It's about 10 or 15 minutes for us to say the vows to them and for them to exchange their rings. And then it's done deal. We sign.
I actually love the idea of that. Andrew has a question for you. He said, after the exchange of vows, how long does the couple have to get the license signed?
Um, you know what? I'm not sure. And you want to look at your local county or state. But if you have an officiant that's on board, unless the couple has actually forgot the license or they couldn't find it or they didn't bring it, I'm sure there is a time frame from the date that you have to sign the day of. But if you have that wedding officiant right there, that's part of the service that you have paid for that wedding officiant. And it's usually a part of the ceremony that while everybody is going to the reception or having hors d'oeuvres and pictures are being taken, that's when the couple goes to the side with two of their witnesses and the officiant signs the paper, signs their license, I'm sorry, their documents, and then it's a done deal. But that's a very good question. And
Yes.
because I signed the license right after, I give the couple a little bit of time for people to
Yes.
hug and kiss and get themselves together, and then the license are signed. But I would suggest that if you're asking for a particular reason, I would suggest that you would check your state and your county that you were married in to see how long you have before you need to have that license signed and submit it to
Right.
the
I was
state
about
office
to
of
mention,
housing.
I remember when I got married and I got married in the state of South Carolina, we were
Mm-hmm.
told that we had to return everything in by, I think it was 24 hours or whatever after the wedding or
Sure,
would be void. So,
sure,
yeah.
sure. So that's why I do it right after, because on that license, there's the date and the time, the county, the two witnesses, everything is right there. So,
Yes.
and also, thank you for asking that question, viewer. Also, the officiant, excuse me, the officiant can mail it off for them, or they can be responsible for it themselves. Right now, I have just been suggesting that the couple mail it themselves.
Yes.
That's just something I don't want to be responsible
I don't
of
blame
right
you.
now.
I don't blame you.
Um, and that's because my schedule Monday through Friday is, very different. And I would want to go and submit it as opposed to putting
Yes.
it in the mail and then something happened, and that would be on me. So it's like,
Yes.
take that to the courts and have that submitted. Yeah.
Okay.
Good question.
Yeah, that is a good question.
Yeah,
Well, now
very
my
good.
next question is, what recommendations would you make to a couple who are not on a budget and they want to make their day extra special?
They don't have a budget.
Right, the money's no, there's no, money, no, there's no limit. They can spend
So there's
whatever
no
they want.
limit.
Yeah,
In this day and time, the couples that I have spoken with and that I have been um, involved with and having the opportunity to speak with, a lot of the millennials or the Gen X, 25, 35, they're very, very smart.
yeah,
And unless their parents are like paying for it, there are some people who have saved up for their daughter or their son's
yes,
wedding, and they actually take on the expense of the wedding, and the couple is just responsible for certain things. But I have to say that a lot of couples have been very smart with, purchasing a home instead of, spending a lot of money on weddings. But if
yes,
there's an extravagant wedding, there's everything from the venue to releasing doves to going off on a horse carriage to doing destination weddings. I mean, and they do all kinds of things now with exchanging plants. And I mean, we were limited, not limited, but, it was jumping the broom or something like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Now there's so many different extravagant things that take place in a ceremony.
yes,
People have, professional MCs, they hire professional singers, maybe um, uh, B level singers. It may not be Usher or
right,
somebody,
right,
but it may be someone popular that they know that
right,
has a single out or a hit. So the
right,
sky's the limit. A lot of people love the beauty of a wedding.
yes,
So a lot of people go all out with the venue, because the venue is really like this party and celebration,
yes,
and the food and the presentation of the food, the presentation of the dessert bars, and the top shelf alcohol, depending on your audience.
yes,
Yeah. So the sky's the limit for, and the ideas, let me say, the ideas, the creativity
yes.
is unbelievable at some of these weddings. When money is not,
There's no yeah,
I
yeah.
can't think of the word, when
No
it's no.
object. Yeah, there's no, like I said, I don't know too many people that can just where they can say, well, there's no object money. I can spend whatever I
Yeah.
want. I don't know too many people, but I know there are some who have been saving for a long time, and
Yes.
they have a big budget. There are some people who've really done that. But for me personally, even if I had the money, I don't see myself being extravagant. Not because I think there are better ways to spend my money. That's just
Yes,
me.
yes, yes, yes. I attended a wedding. I wasn't an officiant at this time. Like I said, it's really the venues. It's
Yes.
like, what's the most extravagant venues? I attended a wedding many years ago with one of my colleagues. She was actually a mentee. a young woman, and her mother was the president of a large corporation, and she had the wedding at the one of the women's art museums in Washington D.C. And I mean, just it was extravagant to no end.
Yeah.
And again, her parents had a budget. You know, she came from a
Yes.
wealthy parent, a family, and it was just amazing. The other, if I don't know what the next question is, but if you don't have um, the type of budget and you still want to be able to get married, back to what we call the elopements. And what I wanted to say about elopements is that that's more of the modern term of doing something small and quaint with just loved ones. There's also another level that's called a micro wedding. The micro wedding is where you do have a venue, but you keep it with just your family and friends. You
Okay.
can have a wedding party. Some people don't, but that's what they call a micro wedding. So I wanted to
Okay, because I was about to ask you, for the couple that has a limited budget, what
yeah.
can they do in order to have a special day?
Yeah, so there's something in between the elopement and a wedding, and it's called a micro, where you just have a small group of people. You do have a venue, you do have an officiant, and you just keep it really for family and very, very, very close friends. And it's still very, very quaint. But I've seen
Okay.
weddings where people have been in their living room and they don't necessarily in their apartment. They don't have the wedding officiant just shows up, and
Okay.
it can be in the park. And then sometimes they put that money into a reception
Okay.
still, but they just want to go and do this themselves. They don't want the organ and the singing and the
Yeah.
all the things that go along with it or coming down the aisle. Everyone's personality is different.
Different. Yeah.
You know, I have to say, Bree, for myself, I never saw myself walking down the aisle. That was something I just didn't want to do. I'm not a person that really wants the attention on me, but will give all the
Yeah.
attention on someone else.
Yes.
And so now when I'm standing there as an officiant and I see just the beauty of the bridesmaids and the grooms being gentlemen and coming down and being behind the scenes and seeing how, I just saw you guys last night when you was all, tennis shoes. And then I see you today all dapper and gentlemen. And it is just a beautiful, I'm standing there as an officiant crying a lot of
Yes.
times, not boo-hooing,
It's a
but
beautiful
just,
thing to
it's a
see. So
beautiful
yeah,
thing.
yeah, I
And that's
get
why a
it.
lot of people want to have weddings because they want to experience that ultimate joy,
Yes.
you
It
know.
is, and it's definitely a joyful moment. Now, do you find that more and more people are shying away from the traditional wedding, like the church wedding, walking down the aisle, as you mentioned earlier?
Yeah, people are doing different things, even saying different things. I had a couple who wanted me to say Yahweh as opposed to the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Okay.
These young people are saying, they want you to say different, and so that's where I sit with them also in their coaching sessions. In
Okay.
some cases, a lot of cases, we go over the going over the vows and I send them a formal wedding script, and then they can look through that and it's like, no, we don't want that, we'll take that out, we want to add
Okay.
this. My mom's going to get up and twirl around and do a dance. I mean,
Okay.
whatever they fit that in, that's the wedding, that's the program, kind
Okay.
of, that's like a program,
Okay. Okay.
if you will. So yes, yeah, the I'm finding that couples are doing all types of things now. Even, of course, we know rewording the formal script, and also the um, flow of the actual service.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Now let's talk about the premarital checklist. Please share with us what your premarital checklist is.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. Give me a second. I had that
Oh,
queued
no
up.
problem.
No, I want to go over that. And I just want to say, with regards to what the question you just asked, I recently did a wedding where the groom, he is a rap artist, along with other things, and he came down the aisle and did a rap song.
Wow.
It was sweet and it was beautiful though. And he came down the aisle with the rap song and then he got in place after his rap song.
Okay. Well, I bet
So
that was fun to see.
it was. And so that's what I'm saying. It's all kinds of. So as a wedding officiant, you just have to hold on to, and I love it. I love that I have embarked on this journey in the season that I'm in,
Yes.
to see the different facets of the change
Yes.
of
Yes.
how weddings are done. It's
I
beautiful.
definitely like the idea of the personal touch. So I think if the
Yes.
groom or the bride, if they're singing or whatever it is, especially if it's a surprise,
Yes.
I think that's
Yes.
very special.
Yes, very, very beautiful. And I was going to let me go back to the elopement. And I just want to say to those
Okay.
who would consider that you can have your own photographer there to take pictures. So you're just not necessarily having the crowd, or you're not having the expense of maid of honors and groomsmen and things like that. You're just coming together, you and your spouse to be, to just quietly say, but you can have flowers in your hand. You can have the wedding dress if you want. You can
Yeah.
have the backdrop of the water. You can do it anywhere. So you don't have to feel like I'm going the cheap route. You're just doing it differently. Perhaps because we're taking this 30,000, 40,000, 100,000 to put towards some parents say, hey, I can give you a wedding. Your budget is 100,000 or 50,000, or you and your spouse to be can take this and put it on the down payment of a home.
And to be honest with you, that would be my choice. But I understand for those who want to have that special day, but
Yeah.
everyone's priorities are different.
So I want to go back to that elopement so you won't feel like, oh, I'm not doing nothing. And then you have people who have on a regular, I've seen it where people got on you've seen it, a dress, a t-shirt, and it's like but we getting ready to jump on the plane and we getting ready to go take a luxury trip, you
Yeah.
know. It's whatever works in your spirit for you and that person. But the main thing is that you did your vows and you have your wedding, your license, and that sign, and that makes
Yes.
you legally married in this country, whether you have a wedding and walk down the aisle with a big poofy dress, or you do it in a park or in your living room.
Yes. Yes.
Indeed. So you wanted to talk about this before and after checklist. And so
Yes.
I had an opportunity on a platform yesterday to talk about this before and after checklist. And one of the things that I said about that before, we always know that's a couple that has not gotten married yet. And the after also, if they didn't get a chance to do those things. And one of the things that I said was that when you first when you will find out that a person is getting married, or he proposed to me, and your family members and your friends are so excited, and it's like, let's go look for dresses, let's find a favorite venue, is this going to be a destination, all of these things, the best man says, man, I'm going to give you your bachelor party here. All of these things happen, but no one says, hey, do you have your finances in check?
Yeah. That's a big one.
So this is the before and after marriage checklist. And after is also if you've been married for 5 years, 10 years, or 20 years, because we all know, Bree, that we can be married for a long period of time and still not have some things in order, right?
True. That's true.
So that's what we call it, the before and after checklist. And the first thing I have on my checklist is debt. When you're coming together, how much debt do you and your partner each have? That is so important. And you and I have talked about that, right? Like we
Yes.
didn't have those conversations at all.
That's true. Now that may be uncomfortable for some people to talk about, but I think in reality we have to take our head out, not bury our head in the sand. And I mean, let's be real.
Yeah. And so what happens is that the things that I'm getting ready to go over, we then have to learn them within this marriage that we're trying to now be lovers and honeymooners and all of these things. But reality, sets in very quickly,
Yes.
right? And so, what's your plan for paying this off? So, if I'm getting married and I'm being honest and say, hey, I have a $200,000 student loan, and he has two cars that he's making payments on, that as a single person or as a bachelor, or I'm paying child support. I have, X amount of child support. That's when you need to have that conversation prior to getting married, and
Yes.
having a plan how we're going to pay it off. So what we're going to do is we're going to live in an apartment for the first 2 or 3 years, and we're going to put our money to things like that, having those conversations.
Very practical.
Yeah, yeah. Number two, your credit rating. It's always good to know your credit score and what a good credit score is. Um, when I was in the credit repair business, there was a gentleman there, and he has his testimony of how him and his wife, increased their credit score and all that they had to do through the company that I was with. But he made a joke. He said, "Hey, I have 400 credit score. My wife had 400 credit score, so we made 800 together." It's kind of a joke, And I thought that was cute, but it doesn't work like that.
Right.
So it's important that you really have those conversations about, what is your credit score? Once married, each of your credit ratings will affect your joint ability to obtain loans and cars and houses, or getting that apartment. Some people have lived together prior to getting married, and they're already established with an apartment.
Yes.
So you know how we ladies are. It's like, okay, now I've been playing wife, and now we're getting married, and we've been in this apartment. Now I want a house. So you may not have known that that spouse, that person that you have been living with, their credit score had not been at its best. So
Yeah.
these are things before you walk down that aisle, before you say I do, you want to talk about. So and get the knowledge of how to improve your credit score.
Yes.
What do we need to do? We need to talk about, of course, paying bills on time, the debt to
Yes.
ratio. Those are important. If you have a credit card, it's like, okay, honey, well, you got a credit card that's $5,000, and you've maxed it out. So now let's work on getting that debt to ratio down. I'm paying child support. How old is the child? 13 years. So for the next 5 years until that child turns 18, or possibly 21 if they're going to college, because rules do change, then we need to look at, we've got to factor those expenses in.
Yes.
Or you come to a marriage where where you have blended families. He has a kid, or you have a child, or you both have children. So it's very important. Also, the status of your money. What do each of you make? Now, I would kind of think if you're going to get married, what his and her salary.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, people don't have that conversation. They just don't have that. I know she make good money. She driving a BMW, but that doesn't mean anything, because her whole check could be consumed with that $800 or $900 car
Yes.
note. It doesn't necessarily mean she's making good money.
Right.
So those are the things you want to talk about. It's important to be responsible and share and talk about how we're going to pay these bills. And then also your future money. What are your expectations about your career and your work? And I should shared yesterday on the platform, you don't want to get married and then he or she says, you know what, I've always wanted to go to law school. Or he or she says, you know, I've always wanted to go to nursing school. Those things should be talked about so you can strategize. And as I say, cement and have a foundation of what this marriage is going to look like.
Yes.
It's so important. And then savings. You know, somebody may have, I've never saved a dime in my life. Someone you marry may be a saver. And so you need to have, how much will we have for savings? Experts suggest saving 3 to 6 months of expenses in an emergency fund. And also, as I stated yesterday, that it is very important that we look at that, because saving now for 3 to 6 months has really changed. We know we need a year or almost two
Yes.
years of savings for, you know, troubled times. How many of us really have that saved up?
That's the truth.
But you have to talk about it, even if you don't, execute it. It has to be put on the table, Bree.
Right. Because
Um,
some people think avoidance will like it'll the problem will
Go.
disappear. But you have to talk about it.
Absolutely. You have to talk about it. And also, children. Do we agree on having or not having children? If so, what are the plans for careers and child care? So, honestly, did we talk about any of these things before we got married?
It's the truth. I mean,
No.
yeah. And, listening to your checklist so far, I'm thinking to myself, if we would have done this checklist, I wouldn't have been married. I would have avoided a divorce because, I wish I had this checklist before.
Yeah, and that is what a lot of people said yesterday. And it's this checklist, this before and after checklist, Bree, is certainly not to discourage people from getting married, because love is a beautiful thing,
Of
and
course,
love
yeah.
is, it takes work, because you're bringing two people from two different um, walks of life and coming together and say we're going to build a life and a home together, right? It can be a beautiful thing. But
Yes.
these are things that we definitely have to talk about it. And I'm so glad that you have me here today, because I hope someone hears this and become educated on, wow, I'm so glad I heard this, because
I hope so because about 2 months ago I had Pastor Frank Anderson and his wife, Minister Heather Anderson. And the topic was when God chooses your spouse. Now, there are many times when we as women where we've met someone and oh, God sent me this wonderful man. And God had nothing to do with it, So I'm telling you, this checklist is very important.
yeah.
I hope that people are listening.
Yeah, I was going to say amen. Amen. I feel safe with saying amen on this platform.
Definitely, definitely,
We
definitely.
talked about children and careers, and then two more, your retirement. What
Yes.
are your dreams for post-work life? What types of retirement plan works for you? And I was saying yesterday that your retirement may look like watching the green grass grow and drinking sweet tea when I've worked, because everyone's at a different level and what type of work they do. Government workers, depending on how long, whatever their pay grade is, they come out with a substantial retirement. And then Social Security and whatever lifestyle and all the things above on that checklist that we paid things off
Yeah.
and all of that. I had a conversation with a friend today, and she was telling me about one of her mother's friends that she went to visit. Her mother has passed, gone on to be with the Lord, and she still gives respect to one of her mother's friends, who's an older woman. And she was just so distraught to see how the woman was living. And she used to have a really good government job and all of this. But the point was the where how she's living now is just really, really sad. And my friend said it made me think about getting more of myself in order. So, because she's a single woman and she's older,
Yes.
that I don't ultimately want to end up like that, that I need to do better in
Yes.
the things that I'm doing. So what does your retirement, for some people, retirement is like, after I retire, I'm going to now start that business that I want to start that bakery, or, that sewing business, or I want to travel now. So these are things that we want to talk about. Now, here's the caveat, Bree, that we may have these conversations at the top of the marriage, the before, but as we know, life be life in, right?
Yes. I like how you said that. Yes.
So I may have wanted to travel at the beginning of this, but now I've got an ailment, or something happened, or something took place, or we lost a child. Life be life in. So in the midst of all of the things that this before checklist, it doesn't mean that it's going to now be a perfect marriage. It means that regardless to if life is lifing, we've got things set and in order,
Yes.
and we're not scrambling. That's the purpose of the before and after checklist, right? And last
I
but
like
not
it because
least,
you know what? I look at it like as a game plan. We have a game plan and there's communication taking place. I
yeah,
think that's a great start to a marriage.
yeah, I believe so too. And then will one of you change your name? We have women who want to keep their name, or they love their husband, they love this new spouse, but they don't want to be a frackanuckle when they are a Brown or a Smith, or they don't
Yes.
want this strange name. So having
Yes.
that conversation, I love you, but I really don't want to attach myself to your last name. I love your family, I love your name, I love you, honey, but I don't want that last name. So those are things that you have to talk about. And there's all kinds of conversations around that. Oh, she didn't take your
Yes.
last name, or things like that.
Yeah.
And so that's very important when we talk about, are you going to change your name? Are you going to hyphenate your name? You may be the last person in your family, and it's like, you know what? I still want to keep, whatever the name is, and I'll hyphenate it with your name, honey, or something like that. But I still want to remain a whatever that last name is, because I'm the last person in the lineage, or something like that. So these are the checklists. That's just a little bit of the before and after checklist. Your your debt, I'm sorry, your credit rating, the status of your money, the future of your money, savings, talk about children, retirement, and a name change. So those are just some of things.
That's really good. So there are no surprises.
Yes.
I love the idea of this checklist.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, I hope that's helpful to someone too, because I had a conversation with a young couple recently. And when I had a coaching session with them and I talked to them about some things, they were like deer in the headlight, like, no,
Yeah.
yeah, we don't have that. No, we hadn't done that. But when I talked to them about the wedding and what she was like, oh yeah, I already know what song I'm gonna play. I already know what, and got excited, and my makeup and da da da. And then when I went through, a portion of our coaching session, when I said, hey, well, let's talk about this, it was like they looked at each other like, no, we don't have
I love it. I love it. Like I said, if
which
I
was a
would
blessing.
had a checklist, I know I wouldn't have been married. I can say that now. So I honestly think it's a great thing. I
Yeah,
really do.
yeah. And that's just one of many checklists. And then, Bree, as we close out, I know that the other checklist is what are your deal breakers? What are
Very
your deal
important.
breakers? I've had people have deal breakers if he smokes or if she smokes. If even vegans, I don't want a woman or a man that eats meat. I mean, it has gotten serious out there in those streets.
Wow.
Yeah, it really, really, or for men, she's got to have long hair down her back, or she's got to be a certain color. And, I mean, it's so many different things, but the
Wow.
most important things sometimes people don't focus on because, short hair 25 years later could be long hair 25 years
That's the
later could be
truth.
gray and short. Your cute curly hair or what his hair looked like could be bald after
Right.
2020. And so those are the nuances and the different things that take place in your life over the years. And you have to buckle up and be ready that in between all the beautiful and wonderful times of having children and graduations and trips and family outings and getting to know his family, her family,
Yes.
all those beautiful, wonderful things, life be life, as the young people say.
I like I never heard that term before, but I'll be using it. I
Well,
can I can definitely say that. I have to ask you, what is it that makes a wedding special? I know it's different for everyone, but at the end of the day, you could just go to the justice of the peace or whatever it is. What is it that makes a wedding special?
the feeling of love.
Yes.
And I often say hashtag love is in the air because I've been to weddings that it is so much love. That's what makes it special. Like you said earlier, you can have the budget, you can have the finances to have the most extravagant marriage and feel sometimes tension or marriage. You're gonna feel the love, all, but you can always see through just some of the things he's doing or she's
Yes.
doing. It's like they're kind of kissing and it could be nervous. It's different things.
Yeah.
But when it's love, when the parents are happy, when you see the parents are talking to one another and they're really excited about bringing these two persons together, or just two persons who are adults, their second marriage,
Yes.
and their colleagues have come to celebrate with them. And the colleagues endorse and say, you know what, they were made for each other. They met at work, or we've known
Yes.
her for a long time, or we've known him for a long time. And this is, we believe we love her, and this is a perfect fit. It's love. It's love. That's what makes it special.
And it's
Whether
a
she's
it's
wearing,
a beautiful thing when you're witnessing it because you can definitely see it.
yeah,
Andrew said romance has to be on the checklist.
yes,
Yes,
yes.
Andrew, we do agree with you.
This is the business side of it, Andrew.
Yes.
We're talking the
Yes.
business we're talking the business because and thank you for sharing that, because we know if two people are coming together, it's love and romance. A lot of that is already there when you've made the decision that you're getting married. Now, years ago, they used to call it shotgun weddings,
Right.
where she's pregnant or something, and now you got to get married. But thank you for sharing that.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely. And I'd like to welcome Hillary Reed. She's saying, hey Hillary, thank you for joining us. You know what? There are people who may have the fanciest wedding, but you know what? At the end of the day, I think even if you're having a small, intimate wedding, it's about the love. It's about the connection. And is
it
it going to
really is.
last?
Yeah. Yeah, the last wedding that I did, I have a glare. The last wedding that I did, it was just so much love and it was so sweet. It was just so sweet. And it wasn't a big budget wedding. I mean, these people came in and did everything themselves, from
Yes.
decorating, but the colors and the flowers and the see the young girls come together, and their hair and their makeup and just so beautiful. But he love he loves her and she loves him. And even in the tension of the rehearsal of just being tired and just, you're planning this, you could still see how they were communicating because I was there and I was
Yeah,
watching them. And they were kind of together, like talking, like, we need to do this, we need, and they were very respectful, and it was just love. It was just
yeah,
very love. It was love. So the day of, it was just so sweet. And those are the weddings that, all of the weddings
yeah.
bring me joy. When you see two people come together, because it's a long road ahead.
Yes. Yes, that's
And
that's 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 a beautiful thing. Well, that will lead to my next question. What would you like to say to the women out there who are in love with the idea of a big fancy wedding? Like, like I remember when I was getting married and planning the wedding, I really think I was in love with the idea of the dress, and because, I thought about it for a few years. And to be honest with you, I think it was really more about the wedding. And I don't think that was a good thing, So I would like you to comment on that.
sure. And you're not the only one, Bree. And I was so quite the opposite.
Yes.
My husband said, "You really?" I said, "No, we don't have to get married. We don't have to have a wedding." It's like, I'm cool. Like, just didn't want to go through all of that. But we did have a beautiful reception.
Okay.
But I didn't want all of that coming down the aisle. And I mean, I had my dad present and I could have done all that. It's like, just at the time. So everyone's different. So what I
Yes.
would say to someone that really wants a wedding, as I heard someone say yesterday, Pastor Lexi, check your motives. Check
Yes.
your motives.
I
Uh,
agree.
and really be okay that if you want to have a wedding, know that it is a cost.
Yes.
And don't turn into Bridezilla when things get tough with the finances, because you can have something really simple and it costs.
Yes.
And
That
the
that
time and
is
the
so
day in
true.
which we live in now, Bree, everything costs. If you say,
Oh my
I'm just gonna
gosh.
do a little something, I'm gonna have a few people over. You can say, I'm gonna have a few people over, and I'm just gonna have a little something. And you can spend two or three or $400 just gathering
Easily.
5 people over to come over, and let's just have,
That's true.
really,
That
because
that's true. Everything is so expensive now.
so I want to really give good sound advice. I would always say, make sure that I would seek God's counseling first. Pray
Yes.
about it. Lord, this is something that I would really love to have. I would love to have a ceremony. And so, Lord, I'm asking you to give me the wisdom, um, give me the favor, because it's like, oh, this beautiful dress is $2,000, but right now it's on sale for $400. I mean,
Right.
that's the favor of God when God is
Yes.
in it. So I
Yes.
would say, seek the Lord first. Now, this is the wedding. We're talking about the wedding,
Yes.
right? Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
And
Yes.
Lord, help me to be sensible. Help me to be responsible. And help me not to have the pressure of other people, because some people live vicariously through you. It's like, I didn't have a wedding. So you get married, so let's have a wedding.
Yes. Yes.
Because now the whole family's going to live vicariously through
Right.
you because they didn't have a wedding.
And that is the case, quite often. Now, earlier you mentioned a vow renewal, and that was one of my questions. Do you offer vow renewal ceremonies?
Yes, yes. I said that to you earlier, that I
Yes.
did a huge wedding vow renewal, and it was beautiful. It was like a wedding. So the difference with that, we did everything the same, but there was no signing
Okay.
of a marriage license. Yeah.
Now,
It was quite extravagant.
okay. Now, Angie, I really want to Angela, I'd like to thank you for all the information you shared tonight
Yeah,
because,
having
like
me.
I said, Bridget, who is 60, is looking back at Bridget, who was who got married in her 20s. And it's like, it's just amazing at how I see things so differently.
You're
And I like,
supposed to.
yeah. And I like the idea of what you're doing. I like the idea of the different options. I like the idea of small and intimate, but I like the idea of knowing that it doesn't have to be if, there are choices, you
Yeah,
know? So I really do like that. And I would like to ask you, to share some closing thoughts with the viewers about this. And please let the viewers know how they can contact you, if you have a link
sure.
or whatever there is, if they're interested in your services.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me, Bree. I am so happy to be a part of this new journey as a wedding officiant. I remember as a young girl being in a whole lot of weddings. I don't know why. I guess I was just tall and skinny and I could, fit in a dress and prop me up and look cute. And then over the years, as I got older, I have started new jobs and someone's like, I'm getting married, such and such. And it's like, you know what? I would love for you to be at my wedding. And I was like, I just met you. It's like, no, but you would just, so about a couple of years back, I went to a wedding in Tennessee, a beautiful wedding. And I sat next to an officiant and I started asking her a lot of questions. And so fast forwarding, I just thank God because he knew this day would be here where I would begin to be a part of wedding officiants. To me, Bree, are like baptizing someone in the Holy Spirit and being with them at the altar to usher in the Holy
Yes.
Spirit into their life and bringing them to Christ. That is exactly what this feels like to me.
Yes. Yes. I think
And
it's I think it's beautiful.
yes, and your ministry is always not in the pulpit or on the usher's board, as they say, or some of the other um, positions in the church. So, what I would like to say to your audience that is considering getting married, if you just want some coaching that you're not even there yet as being getting married, but there's someone in your life that you're waiting for him to ask the question or you're waiting for her to say yes, because we're always on that side of he hasn't asked yet, but there's many men who have asked and the woman is not ready yet, or not necessarily, whatever their fears are.
Right.
I would just love to talk with you. I would love to, please contact me. My email address, I have a digital card, so I can't put that up there.
Yeah.
But my email address is a hope. A is in apple, H is in hope, O is in Oscar, P is in Penelope, E is in Edward, 720 at gmail.com. Now that's my email. My other email address is a hope and co at gmail.com. Either one of those email. If you say, hey, Miss Angela, I saw you on Bree's I saw you on Bree's. Tell me what it is again. It's the
Oh, heart to heart.
podcast, your
Yes.
podcast. And I just want to have a conversation with you. It is free to have a consultation. I would send you my Calendly link and you would just select what I have available. I'm happy to talk with you about anything, and just kind of give you some advice. I
I
mean,
have one more question for you. I just want to make Hillary saying she had a simple, intimate wedding. It was nothing big, but the most important thing was it was about love.
that's what I said.
Yes,
Love.
and that's what you shared earlier. That
Yeah.
I have to ask you one more question, and if you have any more closing thoughts. I was just thinking back
I'm going to get this
to
glare out my glasses. Mhm.
when with my ex-husband. I remember I moved in with him before we got married.
Mhm.
And I remember my mom was furious. In fact, she actually stopped speaking to me for a little while. And I remember her saying that um she didn't live with my father before she got married to him, and she thought that it was wrong.
Mhm.
Is there anything that you would like to say to anyone out there that's contemplating moving in before actual marriage?
So my own personal opinion, I could go into the biblical reason why we shouldn't do that. But remember, you're an individual,
Yes.
and in in common when we play house with a man, I know a lot of people say, I want to test it out. And I don't mean
Yeah.
just sex
Yeah.
testing it out. I mean like living with him um, before I get married so I can see what this brother's about, or living with her. A lot of people do it because it's economical. It's like, well, I'm over your house all the time, or you're over
Yeah.
here all the time. Let's let one of these houses or apartments go and we just live together because we've been together now 2 or 3 years. And so you make decisions like that. I think if you're at that place where you're over each other's house more often than not, I think you need to make the commitment to be married
Yes.
and allow the authenticity or the organic relationship flow, that when you find out, oh, he leaves his socks all over, or she's not the best cook. If you've been together 2 or 3 years already and you've already over his house or he's over your house and you're making the decision to move in with each other, I think it's best to be married. And I think a lot of people may disagree with me, but we can have another session about what the word of God says about
Yes.
that,
Yes.
because it's
Yes.
a covenant. It's a covenant. It's
Yes.
a covenant agreement with one another. And that
Yes.
goes into more of the biblical part of it. And I believe that marriage is sacred
Yes.
when you give. That's why it's important. And I don't want to misquote scriptures. I would really need to make sure. I mean, I
Yeah.
could quote scriptures, but I would want to necessarily give a reference
Right.
of where
Right.
I'm getting these scriptures from, and just not, calling stuff off. We can say all kinds of stuff. And one of the things that I learned about my pastor is that we need to know what we're talking about when we are quoting off scriptures and what they really
Yes.
mean and what was the purpose of the day and time, and those things. So I won't get into that. My answer is I really think it's important. I never lived with anyone. Me and my husband didn't live together. I was 37 to 38 years old. My husband was 42. And he asked my father for my hand in marriage. And we both had been married before. But my husband at 42 years old came to my father and asked my hand in marriage as if we were 20 years old.
That's beautiful.
And I literally moved out of my dad's house, or my parents' house, because my mom had passed, so I was still
Yes.
in our family home, and moved in with my husband, that of the apartment that he had gotten and prepared for us. And we started over in our lives, asking for forgiveness from our previous marriages that we had been in before we had ever knew each
Yeah.
other. And I
Yes.
can't even fathom me and Michael lived together and then we went and got married. I
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah,
that's
that
me.
came to me, and I definitely wanted to ask you that. Hillary said, yes, Jesus has to be in it. We definitely agree with you on that. Now,
Very
if
good.
someone wanted to have you perform their ceremony and they live out of state, can they come to you?
Absolutely. So if someone came out of, contact me out of state, I would look at the state or the county to see if they would honor my North Carolina license. And most states do. There are some
Okay.
states very different, but most states, even out of the country, St. Croix, St. Thomas, there's a lot of other islands and places that honor outside license, so you can have destination weddings. So yes, yeah, Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
well, I tell you, for those who are my Facebook friends, I do have Angela's flyer on my wall, but I will put it out there again tomorrow for those because I posted it last week. But
Yeah.
when Angela posted her flyer last week, I sent her an inbox and told her like, "Hey, I'm not seeing anyone right now, but when the Lord blesses me with a husband, I'll definitely be in touch."
That was so sweet of you. And I got so much feedback from that post, and the Lord just gave that to me that morning because every now and then I will post a
Yes.
something just to make mention about the services that I do provide. And you were one of those persons that
And look, the show we ended up deciding to do the show just from that flyer, and it's actually a very beautiful flyer. But I would like to say I learned a lot from you tonight. I'm sure the viewers learned a lot too. And
Amen. Praise God.
I just love the idea of the checklist. I think you need to put a book together or something on this.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think
Praise
so.
God.
The
I received
checklist alone, I mean, I'm telling you.
Yeah. Well, these are things that me and my husband personally have had to, go through over a period of 26 years. I'm getting a glare, and it's nothing like a glare, and I'm trying to figure out where it's coming from. Oh, I think it's my window. I think it's my
Okay.
windows.
Okay.
My windows that are in front of me. I can take my glasses off. I may
Okay.
not be able to see you, but you can see me. But that glare is killing me. Um, but yeah, so in other words, what I've gone through, or what not I've gone through, like something bad, but
Yeah.
what my husband and I, honey, do you mind cutting the light on or two for me? I know you were. You're so sweet. You can do both of them. That's fine. I appreciate it. That may give me a little more lighting. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, darling. I appreciate that. That's perfect. You Babe, you can leave the lights, those still open. Yeah, they're keep. I just took my glasses off. But these are things that my husband and I, thank you, darling. He was in the room and he heard me and he came to cut some lights on for me. That's what I'm talking about. That's my man, y'all.
Right.
20 years. He's over here cracking up. um, so that's what we had to go through. We were a blended family. When I met my husband, he was in the military with a limited salary. He had three girls. He was paying child support. I had two sons, and their father wasn't paying any. So when I say this checklist, this is real lot. This is real time stuff. This is in
Yes.
real time. These are things that really happen, you
Yes.
know.
Yes.
And then so we're in our apartment, and then we are gonna get a home, and our credit wasn't where it really needed to be at the time in Washington D.C., and then we rented for a while, and we just all of those things. And that's why this checklist, because life be life.
Yes.
And I'm telling
Yes.
you what I know. And thank God that we're where we are today, but we had to work through all of that. And it
Yes.
always isn't peaches and cream. And it can be such a distraction from the love and the romance. If Andrew is still on the
Yes.
phone,
Yes.
is still on the line, it can suck the wind out of the romance.
So true. I mean, that is the truth. I mean, Angela, I really have to thank you for doing this.
Thank you for having me.
I am looking forward to you coming back. And like I said, I learned a lot tonight, and I'm sure that the viewers did too. And for those who watch the replay, please feel free to post your comments or your
Yeah,
questions. And like I said, I will share the flyer on my wall again. And if you want to reach out to Angela, you don't have, I can always get your info and pass it on to her. I can definitely
absolutely.
do that.
And one more time, my email address, I'll give you A Hope, which is my last name, Angela Hope, A Hope and AND Co co at gmail.com. Don't worry about the other one, just ahopeandco at gmail.com. And I'm happy to speak with you if you're planning to get married, if you've set a date. I would love, as I say, ceremonies by design with Angela Hope, your wedding officiant. I would love to be a part of not only your special day, but your long-term journey. As we do this together. Yeah, absolutely.
This was
I'm excited.
wonderful. This was wonderful. I'm looking forward to giving you a call. I'm looking forward to calling you.
Yeah, it's like, girl, I'm ready. I would be like, okay, let me meet this man. And a lot of people say, I'm waiting on my Jabez. I'm waiting on my Boaz. And it's
Boaz,
like,
right.
look, Boaz has been taken. Don't worry
Right.
about Boaz. Get your own man.
Right. I agree. I just read that story in the Bible again a couple weeks ago, but yeah,
And
I'm
it's like, I
telling you,
want my Boaz. No, Boaz was taken.
oh my gosh, I just enjoyed this so much. I'd like to
Thank
thank the
you.
viewers who tuned in tonight. And
Yeah.
like I said, I'm looking forward to having you back. And I did ask you to talk to your husband. Hopefully, you guys will be back soon.
Yeah,
So,
we'll come back.
wonderful, wonderful. I'd like to wish everyone a good night once again. Angela, thank you so much, my
Thank you
sister.
for
I
having me.
really enjoyed this. This was wonderful.
Blessings to you and your
Thank you.
podcast. May the
Thank you
Lord
so
richly
much.
bless you and keep you, watch over you, strengthen you, and give you your heart's desire.
Amen. Amen. Like I
Amen.
said, I have to say this before I sign out. For the guests that the Lord has sent my way, I feel so blessed. I mean, I couldn't ask for more. I mean, and I learn something new every week. It's been such a wonderful blessing. So I would like to thank the viewers who have been tuning in, for those who have encouraged me, and it's been a wonderful journey. So once again, I'd like to thank everyone and say good night. Thank you so much. Take care, everyone, and good night.